Hi friends, Sinead here with VPIRG with some more exciting news. Town meeting day elections will be using ranked choice voting for the first time since the 2021 charter change, and all Burlington voters get to participate. Unfamiliar with ranked choice voting? Keep watching or click the link below. Ranked choice voting lets voters rank candidates in order of preference, first, second, third, and so on. If your vote can't help your first choice win, it counts to your second choice instead. Here's how it works. If one candidate gets over 50% of everyone's first choice votes, they win and the election is over. However, if no candidate reaches a majority, the candidate with the fewest first choice votes is eliminated, and their supporters' votes will count toward their second choice. This process continues until one candidate reaches over 50% of the vote. Ranked choice voting gives voters more voice, more choice, and makes for a stronger democracy. Learn more about ranked choice or try it out for yourself at betterballotvermont.org/BTV2023. Welcome to ongoing Town Meeting Day election coverage by Town Meeting Television. This is one of a series of forums we are bringing you in advance of Town Meeting Day on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Town Meeting TV hosts forums with candidates and covers all ballot items you'll see on your ballot. Town Meeting TV election forums introduce you to community decision makers and connect you with issues that shape your local community. If you are tuning in live, we welcome your questions at 802-862-3966, and you can watch Town Meeting TV on Comcast Channel 1087, Burlington Telecom Channel 17 and 217, and on YouTube at youtube.com/townmeetingtv. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Joan and Will and Fareed. I'd love to give you guys a minute to give us an opening statement. Joan, if you could go first.
Well, thank you, Sinead, and thank you to Town Meeting TV for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to engage with the public. I'm Joan Shannon. I am the South District City Councilor currently. I live in Lakeside, and it's been a privilege to serve on the City Council for 20 years now, and I know a lot of people think that may be too long, but I think that I have learned a lot in that time on the City Council, and I think that that history is valuable. And I think, like everybody else, I am running because I love Burlington. I have a vision for what Burlington can be, and I'd like to continue to work on that at the City Council.
Great. Thank you. Will.
Thank you also, Sinead, for having me on Town Meeting TV. Thank you for Fareed and Councillor Shannon for being here as well. I'm also running because I have a vision for Burlington. And although I have not been on the City Council like Councillor Shannon, I also live in the South District in Ward 6 on South Union Street. My vision for Burlington is one in which people can afford it easier to live here. So I have ideas that I'll bring to the table, and I will listen constantly on how we can do this. And I think that where we need to start is with housing. We need to stabilize rents so that our rampant housing market, our rampant investment, is not going to be putting an adverse risk on tenants. We need to reform property taxes so as the values of our properties keep rising, those of us with lower fixed incomes aren't going to face an excess burden. We need to reform our police department so that people are not living in fear. And, of course, what comes with that is addressing the root problems of crime. Advancing our social services, our mental health care system, our educational opportunities so that law-abiding citizenship is too good of an offer to refuse. This is the vision that I have for our city. I think that we're almost there, and with a progressive vision, we can really get there. Of course, the environmental issues go hand in hand with this too, so that we can have a sustaining future. I've got ideas for this sort of thing. I'm a problem solver, and that's why I think I'd be a great representative on the City Council for the South District.
Great. Thank you, Will. Fareed.
My name is Fareed, and I've been in the South End on Five Sisters neighborhood for 25 years. I love Burlington. I think it's a great city with great values. I am running because I feel like we are on the wrong path. Most of the decisions being made are not reflective of those values that we hold dear as a city. Burlington is a leader in terms of innovation. In the past, we have done really great things when our public services are really oriented towards serving the public, and I am concerned that in the last decade or so, we have gone down the wrong path. I'm concerned about the privatization of not just the economy, although that is also a very big issue, but also of our public processes in general, where decisions are being made with less and less participation from the public. So I am running to promote public participation and also to bring up some of the issues that are important, such as public participation in decision making and in public safety. I think we all share the same concerns, and as far as how do we address that, I do believe that public safety is different from public order. For everybody to be safe, we all have to be safe. Nobody is going to be truly safe unless we meet everybody's need for food, housing, and care. So that is the reason I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question is about the budget, and will you be supporting the Burlington school budget's 4.9% increase over last year? Are you concerned about proposed teacher cuts? Why are we not? And we'll start with Will.
I will be supporting the Burlington school budget's 4.9% increase. Admittedly, I am concerned about proposed teacher cuts, but at the end of the day, I've got to yield to the expertise of the people that have developed this budget. I've got to yield to the expertise of the parents of students, the parents that have students in the school that have had input on this. This is something where I'm not going to be able to come in with, an idea to contradict this. I support the budget, and I think that it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and approve it.
Thank you. Fareed?
I support the teachers, and I would like to learn more about this issue. I'm in general would be supportive of the school budget, but it does concern me that the teachers are looking at this proposed cuts in terms of like teachers and also programs. And I want to make sure that the students get the priority here. And I think the teachers are the best people we need to be talking to around this issue.
Great.
But I'm generally supportive of the budget.
Thank you. John?
Thank you. Yes, I wholeheartedly support the budget. And like Will said, far be it from me to interject my opinions over the school board, who I have great admiration for this school board and the work that they do. I think that they are really an excellent group of folks, bring a lot of expertise to the table. And I appreciate everything that they have to wrestle with to make the budget. So, who supports teacher cuts, really? At the same time, we're forced to make hard choices. And I will say that I think Vermont needs to really restructure education funding. And not just the funding, but the whole structure of education, where we have, each municipality or small groups of municipalities forming school districts, doesn't really make sense. Because the truth is the taxpayers are paying far too much for education in Vermont, and the kids aren't getting enough. The teachers aren't getting enough. And in order to remedy that, we need to find some efficiency in this system. And I would advocate for a statewide school district with statewide standards where every child gets what they need. We tried to do that with Act 60, which is really opaque. I don't think there are more than 5 people in the state that fully understand exactly how education is funded in Vermont. And this conversation really needs to begin in earnest about, I know that there's a desire for local control, but when the local control is all about what do we cut, what do we cut, what do we cut, it doesn't feel very good.
Great. Thank you. As far as more ballot items, ballot has 6 items before the voter on the ballot. These are Proposition 0, instant runoff voting, all resident voting, redistricting, citizen police oversight body, and a polling place change. Of these, if you could tell us how you will vote and which you feel the most strongly about and why. We'll begin with Fareed.
I feel most strongly about Proposition 0 because that is a project that I've been involved in for the last few years. And I think it is very consequential to the way decisions are made in this city. I support the citizen police oversight body, although I don't think it goes far enough. in holding the police accountable. I also will be supporting the instant runoff voting. I'm not a big fan of instant runoff, but because this will restore the threshold of winning to 50%, which is democratic standard, I will be voting for it. As far as the redistricting, I will be voting no, because not really because of the map itself, but because of the concept of the district councilor. I think we need to go back to the 2 councilors per district setup, and that would be more representative, and that is more democratic. As far as the polling place, I believe that is worth supporting. It will make it, if it makes it easier for the administrators of the election. And as far as the all-resident voting, I will be voting yes. I was involved in the initial, in the first time around when we, in 2015, brought this to the ballot, and unfortunately it was defeated closely. And 7 years later, I think Burlington is ready for it. So, that's what tends to happen with ballot items that are, like we consider progress. That's what happens. So I will be voting yes on that as well. I think I got him all.
Awesome. Great. Joan?
Thank you. I guess I'll just make it brief and say I support ballot items 1 through 6. There was some confusion about whether or not I supported all those ballot items because I did a North Avenue News article that said I was voting no on 4 and 5, but the numbers changed, and actually I don't support questions 7 and 8, but I do support questions 1 through 6. So I'll just focus on, and I do think 7 and 8 are the most important. So number 7 is the control board for police oversight. And the issues that I have with that, I mean, I think that there are a lot of things that we could do with regards to police oversight. This just is not it. And we have done a number of things, but I think that people should understand what's actually in this. Number 7 would create a new city department to oversee the police. Within the city department, there would be an investigative office. We would hire a director for that department, as well as employees and consultants and legal expertise. We would also have a paid board of 9 people to oversee that. And mind you, we only have 29 police officers on patrol. So this seems like an exorbitantly expensive endeavor to deal with very, very few problems. So like I said, there's a lot of different ways you could deal with it, but this is not it. And nobody can tell us within $100,000 or $500,000 what this is going to cost. In addition, I don't think that anybody, no matter your profession, you should be supervised by people who understand your profession. You don't get a group of people who have been victims of malpractice to supervise doctors. Yes, that voice is important, but the doctors should be supervised by doctors. Social workers should be supervised by social workers. And this also eliminates anybody within the profession of having any role over police discipline. It takes away the ability of the police chief to discipline officers, in that the chief can discipline an officer, but then this board can come in and vacate that discipline. So then that officer isn't disciplined, and there's a period of time they may get different discipline or they may not get disciplined. I think we need to have professionalism in oversight, and I can't imagine anybody working for a department that did not get that. Also, ballot question 8, which is Proposition 0, allows the public to put referendums on the ballot. One of the problems with that is exactly what we're seeing in number 7. Number 7 is a 6-page charter change, but on the ballot, you only get about a paragraph. These are actually 2 questions you'll see on the ballot. This question is maybe a 2 or 3-page charter change, and this question is 6 pages. So people actually making policy, the public would be making policy under question 8, but the vast majority of the public will never actually read the legislation that they're voting on. Legislation is an iterative process. It shouldn't be binary yes or no. There's a lot that happens when we sit down and we wrestle with policy as an ordinance committee, as a city council. There's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of taking into account issues raised by the public and working that legislation so that it will work for everybody. That opportunity is lost when something is put on the ballot and based on a paragraph, people decide whether or not they want this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Well.
So with regard to Proposition 0, I am in support, like Fareed, of the ballot initiative. Because I am not afraid of democracy in the city of Burlington. That's why I'm running for city council. And as I'm going door to door, I'm finding that the people I talk to are extraordinarily informed. The idea that, this would be making decisions out of the scope of the city council is not one that I think is onerous. In fact, I think that it would be a victory for democracy in the city of Burlington, a city that has won great victories for democracy in the scope of American history. So I think that this is a good idea, and should a ballot initiative be passed, for example, by some moneyed interest, this would enable us to later on go and fix that as well. It's a more direct democracy. I don't have a problem with it. I'm in support of it. Instant runoff voting, I'm in support of that as well. Don't see a problem with it. Seems to, again, streamline the democratic process. I'm in support of that as well. All resident voting, I don't see an issue with this. It doesn't mean that it would violate any federal rules, for citizenship. I think if someone's living here, they ought to have a say in a local election. Everyone's, life and vote is worth the same in my view. So I'll be voting yes for that. With regard to redistricting, I will not be voting yes, although at an earlier event and to a couple of people, I've kind of flip-flopped on this just because I wasn't convinced. I've now decided that I don't see a good reason to vote yes for this. I'm not seeing the reasoning behind the new maps, and if I can't see the reasoning why behind a policy is good, then I can't get behind it. So I won't be voting in support of the redistricting, and I look forward to see what the result of the vote is. As for the polling place change, to be honest, I'm not fully convinced either way on this, but as of right now, I'm voting yes because I've heard from a lot of people in Ward 6 that it would be convenient for them to have the polling place change. But I hope that, like you, we will all read more about this concern before we submit our ballot or before we go to the polling place on town meeting day. As for the Citizen Police Oversight Board, this is the one that I feel most strongly about. And like Fareed, and in contrast to Councillor Shannon, I am in support. I think that it is absolutely critical for us to establish community control of police. I think that it is far more dangerous to have the police be overseen by a very small minority, a mayor and a police chief, who, in theory, could be part themselves of a very small, established, moneyed authority. Than for the community to be put in trust of the force that has a deadly ability to keep them safe or to cause them harm. I have great trust in the community organizations and city council here in Burlington to appoint members to this board. I have great trust in this board and in the city council to be fiscally responsible. And I think this would be a great stride for public safety in terms of keeping our citizens safe and being free from fear.
Great.
I'm in support.
Great. So as far as the legislative session, we are well underway, coming up on town meeting. What are some important initiatives to the community of Burlington that you'll be tracking and supporting as part of your work on the City Council? Go Joan first.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly say something I forgot to mention about question 7, which is that really is not a community board. It's not accountable to the community. The community doesn't appoint the board. The elected officials don't appoint the board. The organizations chosen by the elected officials don't appoint the board. The organizations, the board that is chosen by the organizations, chosen by the city council, That's who appoints this board. It is so far removed from any kind of public accountability, and there's no way to remove anybody from this board. So I really think that that's a misnomer. As far as legislative issues that I will be following, I think that the issues that are hard for us to get at the city, really mental health care would be at the top of my list. We need mental health care, and you can't get it. You can't go to the hospital and get mental health care. People are staying in our emergency room for weeks on end, and this needs to be addressed regionally, as do our transportation needs and reforms to housing policy.
Great, thank you. And just Will and Fareed, I'd like to allow you 30 seconds to just respond if you want to on the previous question, but the Vermont session, if you'd like to answer.
Well, sure. To respond on the question about question 7, from my point of view, the fact that community organizations will be selecting members for this board does mean that it is a community board. I have a greater trust in those organizations and in the people that are really involved in this community than the police chief, for example. And I think that the fact that it's difficult to remove board members is important to avoid the potential for retaliation. With regard to the legislative session, like Councilor Shannon, I'd be acutely interested in additional mental health resources. I mean, everywhere I'm hearing, that this is a really vital gap that we need to fill. But I'd also be interested in other more broad economic measures that we can't really affect as a city council. For example, expansion of public transit. Measures for housing policy that I would be very interested in would be programs that help tenants purchase their homes or their buildings cooperatively, which have been implemented in other states and not here in Vermont, which I see as really critical for the housing crisis. And then in general, environmental policy I think really needs to take place on a big scale. We may be able to enact some changes as a city council, and definitely as a city councilor, I would do my best to find ways to implement climate, environmental solutions. But I really think it has to happen on a statewide scale. So I'm very interested in bills potentially geared towards promoting a regenerative economy, bills geared towards promoting renewable energy produced here in Vermont. The transportation and storage of that energy are all things that I think would really help us lead into a brighter future. I'd like to see that happen on a statewide level.
Thank you. Fareed?
I would like to respond to some of the points that Councilor Shannon raised about question 8 as being possibly enabling more of question 7. If you look at the history of question 7, that language actually was generated in the Charter Change Commission, the committee on the City Council that Councilor Shannon sat on, and it was then passed by the whole council. So the suggestion that this was unvetted language somehow, or that Proposition 0 would allow this kind of things to happen is misleading, I think. As far as the length of the proposed legislation that we see on the ballot, council-generated ballot questions also have the same issues, especially if you compare the DID, which we voted on, the Downtown Improvement District question, which we voted on in 2019. Also appointing like a board that wasn't really directly accountable, mostly dominated by business interest. And there is legitimate criticism about the ballot question process, but those criticisms mostly also apply to council-generated ones, not just petition-backed ones. If anything, the petition-backed ballot questions have been vetted with more people, by more people than council-generated one, because we have had to gather almost over 2,000 signatures just to put this on the ballot. As far as like the money in politics questions, that's already happening. Just look at the political action committees that's been established to oppose this petition-backed ballot measures. We have out-of-town business interest already donating to candidates who can then, if they get on the city council, they can put any legislation on the ballot. So actually, Prop 0 would be a great way for people to counter that. As far as the legislative session, I would be interested in making sure that if should Proposition 0 and the community control of the police pass, this would be passed by the legislature. Some of the concerns that's been raised can also be addressed at that time. And also on housing, I would be paying close attention to, because I do think that needs to happen at the state level. Housing and police oversight should ideally be dealt with at the state level. And Burlington passing community control of the police would put more pressure on the state to come up with a statewide standard.
Great, thank you. So, does Burlington have a housing crisis? What do you see as the nature of housing in Burlington, and how to meet the need for safe and affordable housing for residents, students, and visitors alike? And if we could keep our responses nice and brief so we can get to all the questions, because there are some good ones, but we'll start with Will.
Well, you really should not ask me about housing crisis. Ask me to keep it brief, Sinead, as many people in the South District now know, because I'm very interested in this subject, and I think that there's real solutions that we can be working to implement. I think that we need to develop more housing. I think we need to build more, but I think that our approach doesn't necessarily need to be about focusing on making sure that each building is full of affordable units. Let anyone build who wants to build. Let them charge whatever rent they want. Let's have a free housing market. But what we should do to ensure affordability is stabilize rents and then increase property taxes on multifamily buildings. If a landlord has a lot of properties, make them pay a progressive rate on that and use that to subsidize rents for people who have difficulty affording it. If housing is a human right, we should try to equitably distribute it by looking at how it's really financed. And then we should take a social housing approach. The city should encourage the Champlain Housing Trust, other affordable housing organizations, to purchase all kinds of buildings and rent them out at all kinds of rates, using higher rents to subsidize lower ones. This is a solution that's worked in Canadian cities. It's worked in Midwestern cities. It's worked in European cities. And I really think that it can work here. So again, my strategy is not just to build affordable housing. It's to build whatever developers want to build. Build it in the South End Enterprise Zoning District, Innovation District. Build it in the Pit. Build it where the church is. We need more housing, and we need more affordable housing, so let's purchase older buildings. Let's help tenants purchase their own buildings cooperatively. Social housing, that's the way to go. But at the end of the day, housing's a human right. If you can't afford it, we got to find a way to get someone in a home. Solution to homelessness, put someone in a home. Yes, mental health is good, but you got to give them a place to live. Shelter, it's the silver bullet.
Thank you. Fareed?
I agree with Will about the housing first approach to homelessness. And I think that is very important in dealing with all the other social problems that we've been having. If somebody can't go back to a place where they feel safe and stable, there's no way they're going to be able to hold down a stable job, to deal with their addiction, and to live a better life. I do think we need to make sure that housing is a human right. It's something that we hear often, but I think we also in Vermont, both at the state and the local level, have legislative bodies that are dominated by the interest of developers and real estate speculators. You can't square these two concepts of housing is a human right or housing is something that should be done to make a profit, just like you can't do it with healthcare either, whether it's a human right or it's a commodity. And I firmly think it's a human right, and it's the job of government to actually to uphold this right for everybody. And that includes more social housing, more cooperative housing, building housing for working class people, using its power of eminent domain to actually take over some of the unproductive use of buildings and land and provide housing for all.
Right, thank you. Joan?
Thank you. I really liked some of Will's ideas as far as housing. I am a realtor by trade, and I really believe in home ownership, and I think it's concerning that Burlington is probably getting somewhere towards 30% home ownership and 70% rental, and there's a number of problems with that. One is that people's housing payments should be stable from year to year. And if you own your own home, you've done a lot to stabilize that. Taxes continue to go up. It's not completely stable. It's much more stable than being a renter. So we do need to get more people into home ownership in Burlington. And I liked Will's idea of tenants buying their units. Unfortunately, in Burlington, we actually have an ordinance against I don't know that it's exactly against what you're saying, because I think that Will is saying having tenants buy their buildings as a co-op, but you can't condominiumize a building. So where tenants might be able to get into housing by buying their unit, they can't. And I'm not sure whether or not that applies to co-ops, but there's been an effort to actually prevent that in Burlington, and I don't think that that's right. So Will, whichever way this goes, that's something I'd be really interested to work with you on. And I think it's problematic that housing is becoming concentrated with too few people owning it. Part of that is how construction is financed. It's much easier for a developer to build a rental building than it is for a developer to build a condominium building. So that's also really problematic, and not something easily dealt with at the city council level, but I think we do need to work on it.
Great. So, a sweet question. If you could tell us a little bit about why you care about and want to work as a city councilor for the community of Burlington. What are your favorite spots, and why do you love to live here? We'll go Fareed first.
I know I'm running for a South District City Council, but I actually love the Old North End. This is one of my favorite spots. But I also love the neighborhood of South Meadows in the South End. I serve there every week, distributing free food to families. And I think the best thing about Burlington is its people and the values of its people. And I keep remembering when in 2012, like as a city, we were asked, like, what is our priority? Like, do we support economic policies that should benefit the 99%? And 80% of the voters, that's the 4-1, affirm that value, which makes me proud to be in Burlington. But as far as do our governments actually do that, well, that's the reason why I'm running for city council, because I don't think our city government really reflects that values yet.
Great, thank you. Joan?
I first came to Burlington as a high school student looking at UVM, and this is really going to date me, but it was back when People's Express was, you could fly from Newark to Burlington for $29. And so I came by myself. I was the fourth child. My parents just kind of sent me. And I was independently in Burlington for the day, and it was a beautiful day, and I was at the top of the hill after leaving the admissions office and looking out at the lake, and it absolutely took my breath away. And I thought, I'm just going to walk down the hill, get a sandwich, and find a rock by the lake and eat my sandwich. And so I got my sandwich and I walked down, and the closer I got, the less I could see, because at that time the whole waterfront was lined with oil tanks. And I found a rock that looked out between these oil tanks looking at the Adirondacks and the lake, and I thought, I wonder if people in this town realize what's on the other side of their oil tanks. But it is definitely the lake that I find so compelling, and the parks of Burlington, the walkability of Burlington. I have actually lived in so many places in Burlington. I first lived on Hungerford Terrace. I lived on North Willard Street. I lived in the Old North End on North Street. Now I live in Lakeside. But it's all of these little neighborhoods that really make Burlington special. And the accessibility to the lake. Not all communities have the kind of accessibility that we have. So that's at Church Street. I love everything about Burlington.
Great, thanks. Will?
Well, I've certainly lived here the shortest between the three candidates here. But I lived in Vermont a little bit longer, and was first drawn here because of progressivism. I mean, seeing Senator Sanders being elected from here, and growing up nearby and bearing witness to the culture here, really has always drawn me in, along with the nature. And since I've moved here, I've realized, never really going back because of the people. Because people here really seem to value freedom in their lives, which is what I value the most. I have never been to an American city where people seem to be able to do what they want to the same extent that they can in Burlington, which is something that I really loved about living in Montreal, and it's what I love the most about living here. And as your city councilor, that's what I'd like to continue to promote, is the ability of people to live their lives however they want while feeling safe, while being healthy, which is what I see as, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. As for how I pursue happiness, my number one spot in Burlington is the optimal location from the bike path at Oakledge Park, where the sand is minimally hot under the shaded trees to get to the beach at Oakledge. And I know where that spot is and go there really quite frequently when the weather is warm.
Great. So, your city council race is one of the first in Burlington using ranked choice voting. We know that this gives voters the chance to rank candidates in order of preference. Please tell us whether and how this has affected how you're campaigning and communicating with voters. We'll go Joan first.
I cannot say that I support ranked choice voting. I can't say that it has impacted how I campaign or how I interact with voters. I have always felt that, I will do the best that I can to represent the interest of voters. I will be forthright and tell you what my positions are. I will tell you when I'm undecided and seek input in the decision-making process. And if at some point I am not adequately representing your interests, you need to know where I am so that you can make an informed decision. I don't tend to sit on the fence. And I also appreciate, I think that these are also characteristics I see in Will and Fareed. They're very forthcoming about their positions. Personally, I appreciate that because I would rather disagree with somebody than not really know where people stand. So no, it hasn't affected my campaign, but I'm glad that we do have ranked choice voting. I think that it is a better reflection of the public will. And without it, we run the risk of the spoiler effect, which would be electing the person who's actually least popular in some ways. No system is perfect. But I do think ranked choice voting is a better system to reflect the will of the voters.
Great, thank you. Will?
On this one, I agree with Councilor Shannon. I think ranked choice voting is a good idea. Again, I've yet to see a problem with it, but it's not really affecting the way I'm communicating with voters in Burlington. I tell everyone to vote for me all 3 times, and if I can't give them, one reason to vote for me once, then I'll keep giving them reasons until they've got 3. Or more to put me down. So that's my strategy. That's what I'm telling folks, and that's what I'm going to continue to do until town meeting day.
Fareed?
I can't say it's really affected my campaigning because this is really my second time only campaigning for elected office, and I just tell voters what I think and what my positions are. So I'm not a big fan of ranked choice. From my experience actually managing a campaign that was a third-party campaign or an independent candidate campaign, I do value the conversations that happens during elections. I have a problem with the 40% threshold that's currently in place for the mayor election and was in place for a long time. I don't think that is democratic. Anywhere else you look, the democracy is at least 50% plus 1. I do, and I believe this because my experience during the Infinite for Mayor campaign, when for the first time, we have ended up with a mayor that most of us did not vote for. Had the threshold been the Democratic 50% plus one, we would have forced a runoff election. Well, it would have taken more time, but that's a great time to be discussing the issues. It would have put more public attention on the issues that are important. I don't think 3 extra weeks, 4 extra weeks of talking about what's important to us and our neighbors is a bad thing.
Great. So as a community with a diversity of languages spoken and a language access policy adopted in 2020, what ways do you see that the city government can expand access and accessibility to more community members who want to participate in local democracy? And we will go Will first.
Sure. So, with regard to the diversity of languages spoken in Burlington, I think that we should, as a city council, be quite aggressive in making sure that, everyone is involved who wants to be in local democracy, and even be reaching out to people who might not even know that they can be involved, and to use in a fiscally responsible fashion the resources available to us to do that. And one way I think would be to work with the Committee on Refugees and Immigrants, who have a really strong translation program, and maybe look at creative ways we can work with them in order to get people more involved. But something that I would like to mention, with regard to language access, not necessarily for folks that live in Burlington, but I think that we should really be working to expand our connections to Quebec in the city of Montreal, because it's really the biggest city close to us. But the national border, might prevent some of the interaction that can occur. So as a city council, I'd work to create programs to link us better with Montreal, culturally, economically. And see what can happen. I think that we could get a lot more benefits if we're a little bit more active about our relationship with our friends to the north. And that might mean advancing some French language programming in Burlington education. And I would look forward to exploring that as your city councilor.
Thank you. Fareed.
I think the Neighborhood Planning Assembly is very important to Burlington. It is an institution of direct democracy where we actually get to have a direct influence on how the city proceeds in terms of its decision making. Unfortunately, in the last 10 or 15 years, the Neighborhood Planning Assembly in Burlington, which used to be very powerful, very strong community institution, have been neglected and have been defunded. It used to have a budget of about $15,000 per ward that was allocated towards what the neighbors would like to see change in their neighborhood. But over the years, it has been defunded to a lot less than that. I believe it was only like $2,000. And it has to go through the city council, even though initially the NPA was envisioned as a people's alternative to the Council of Aldermen, who at that time were sabotaging all the initiatives. The best things that Burlington have achieved happened when the NPA was strong, when the public can meaningfully participate in democratic decision making. Language access is important. We got to make sure that there is a translation service, but as important is to revive the NPA and make sure that people can actually attend it. That means, you feed people there, you provide childcare, you provide transportation, so that more of us can participate and not just the few who can afford to. I think that's very important.
Thank you. Joan.
Thank you. Yeah, with regards to the NPA, I actually was on a large committee that was gathered by Peter Clavel prior to becoming a city councilor, because I was active in the NPA at that time, and also very active in my neighborhood. And so the committee was charged with looking at, should the NPAs continue? Are they relevant currently? And the conclusion was, yes, they are, and they needed more city support than what they were getting. So prior to that, the NPAs really didn't get any city support. And some of the things that we did from that point was we started doing trainings and coordination and getting more city staff to NPAs than they previously had, which I do think has been helpful to the NPA. But unfortunately, a lot of people aren't able to participate in NPAs. It's just difficult for a lot of people who are working multiple jobs, raising their family. Finding the time to do that is challenging. I still think it's a great thing to get everybody together in the room, but it's also a place where language challenges are particularly difficult. And I think probably the best way that the city can address those language challenges, and we've been doing a much better job in recent years, but it's probably reliant on technology is the best way to deliver the most languages and the most information to the most residents about the things that they need to know. I'll also acknowledge Will's point about French in the schools. We used to teach French in the schools and they changed to Spanish. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'd like to give you all about 30 seconds to make a closing comment before we wrap up. Fareed, you can go first.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for having this conversation. I think we as a city are dealing with the consequences of some policy failures, and we can't use the police to fix some of these policy failures. These are the result of systemic inequities, and the only way we can fix systemic inequities is by systemic reforms of our priorities and of our decision-making processes. Please vote for yes on question 7 and question 8. We need to start holding public officials accountable. That includes the police. And we also need to put the public back in public policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Joan?
Thank you. I just want to say that I think that we've had a lot of negative dialogue in recent years. I think coming out of COVID has been difficult for people. We have had severe social challenges in our city, but I know that Burlingtonians really want to rebuild our city, and it's a caring city, and we see the suffering that people are going through. We want to find remedies. We want our city to be safe. We want it to be affordable, and we want it to be vital. And I'm grateful for all of the Burlingtonians that put in so much effort to create that vision for our city and to make it real.
Thank you. Will?
We have some problems in the city of Burlington. Although this is, like I said, my favorite city, and I think the best city in the United States, people are struggling. It's difficult to afford housing. It's difficult to find housing. Difficult to find a doctor. It's difficult to find support for mental health issues. And I see these as questions of priorities. If we, as a people, change our priorities, even municipal policy, I see solutions that can make big changes and big strides in this. As your city councilor, I'll use my problem-solving abilities and work tirelessly to use municipal policy to address these issues. If you're on board with, increasing the standard of human rights in this way, get in touch with me, wa4btv.org. Find my email, find my phone number. I'll be coming around to your door if you haven't met me already. Looking forward to it, and I hope that you'll vote for me on town meeting day. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to the three of you, and thank you for tuning into Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local candidates, local budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and more forums at www.ch17.tv. Please do not forget to vote on or before March 7th. Ballots are mailed automatically, but if you haven't gotten one, please check with the city clerk to request a ballot, or make sure to go to the polls on March 7th. Thank you for watching and sharing Town Meeting TV. If you are not already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Town Meeting TV. Thank you.